Moms of Reddit, what do you know about your child that you will never tell to him? Have a daughter in college. Her first summer back home I went to wash all of her clothes she brought back. As a college girl, it was at least 4 loads. As I sorted her clothes before washing them out tumbled 4 butt plugs wrapped in a bag. They were huge, like, huge. So I carefully wrapped them back up and slid them back into her things. I am a parental figure to my orphaned younger siblings, and there's something I'll never tell my sister. When she was going through a terrible period as a drug addict, late teens, she stole our mom's wallet and all of our mom's credit cards. Bank accounts had to be cancelled and changed. Our mom was in bad health but had a huge life insurance policy she had gotten almost 15 years prior, when she was healthier. When the accounts were cancelled, she forgot to change the auto payments for the insurance. It was declined and subsequently cancelled. She couldn't get another policy anymore. She had too many health problems. My mom told me about all this in confidence. Less than 2 years later our mom died. Everyone thought she had a life insurance policy to help us, but she didn't. She left absolutely nothing. I'm the only one who knows why. It would kill my sister to know her addiction cost us several $100,000. The recovery from our mom's death was really hard. Siblings moved in with me, etc. And the insurance money could have saved us a long period of financial and emotional struggle. It will never be worth telling her. She's been through enough. We all have. I will never have more resentment and love for my little sis. That when he was 3, he created a suit of body armor out of maxi pads, and I have photographic evidence. Authentic period armor. I've answered this before, but my teenage daughter writes smutty fan fiction on Tumblr and has thousands of followers. She doesn't know that I know, and it's pretty damn good, too. I was turning my daughter's mattress when I came across a notebook full of female nudes. She must have been putting it together for some time, not wanting to embarrass her or violate her trust. I finished flipping the mattress and put the notebook back just as I'd found it. That was years ago and she still has no idea. Good, this thread is making me think all the embarrassing stuff my mum must have found all these years. Those pictures I had below my mattress and below my books on my bookshelf. I never know what happened to those once I left home. When my daughter was 3, she bonked my mom in the head with a toy, as 3-year-olds are prone to do. My mom had a blood clotting disease and got a blood clot in her head about a week later and eventually died from it. I'm not sure anyone but me has put 2 and 2 together, and I aim to keep it that way. My daughter had no idea what she was doing. Because she was 3, she would probably literally kill herself if she found this out, since she is a hair bipolar and gets to a really dark place with too much bad news. My mom never seemed to put 2 and 2 together. She had the disease for 13 years and most people only live 6, so she felt very blessed. My wife would be devastated to know this, even though she knows I don't think she connected them. She probably doesn't remember my daughter bonking my mom on the head anymore. So, I'll never tell them, and that's okay. That she ate cat poop. We had a very long-haired cat at the time. Apparently some poop got stuck to his fur only to fall out upstairs where the baby was crawling around and found it. 5 years later she is still a normal, happy and healthy child. Sorry sweetheart. Your kid now has toxoplasmosis and will eventually become a cat slave. Good going, little buddy. I saw my flip cam was missing from the table I put it on and went to look for it in my 11-year-old son's room. I checked to see if there was anything recorded and there was. He was jacking it to a magazine of mine advertising women's clothing and underwear, and commenting about which girl he would like to put his dong in. I put the camera back, and when he came home I asked him to bring it downstairs if he had it. That gave him time to delete the videos, and he has no idea I am now hiding my flip cam and ladies clothing magazines. He will never know I saw his tiny boner being manipulated to images of plus-sized women. You might want to tell him to never ever put things on the internet. That the only reason I taught my kids how to play poker was so that I could learn their tells and know when they're lying to me. Probably not the answer you are looking for. My son is 4 and he doesn't think I know about the vegetables he puts in his pockets when I'm not looking. Oh, I know, alright. Laundry is fun. My 3-year-old is a very affectionate little guy, but he's very embarrassed about his being affectionate. He thinks I don't know he comes into my room every morning for snuggles and then sneaks out when I wake up. I caught my son once pretending to milk himself into a bucket while taking a bath. He was only around 4 years old, so I don't think he remembers, but he was hovering over a bucket and squeezing his willy. I asked him what he was doing and he told me he was pretending his willy was an udder and he was trying to get milk. I said okay honey and slowly closed the door. I did that to a dog when I was like 5. My mom laughed and told my grandma, who laughed harder. I really hope they forgot that. I know what their faces look like when they're trying to take a dump. In the same moment, I also realized my mother knows the same thing about me. She was conceived because I really wanted an iced cappuccino from Tim Hortons. He didn't feel like driving so I made him a deal. It actually ended pretty nicely in a field under a clear night sky with many stars out. Stay at home dad. Here, I'm hoping that I never have the need to tell my kids that 2 out of the 3 served jail time in utero. Dude, and to Partum street cred. I'll never tell my dear son that I follow every freaking single comment he makes on Reddit and that I'm the one who gives him the golds. Poor kid will always think that he's a such funny person. I will never, ever tell my daughter that when she was 1 week old I accidentally threw her across the room onto a wood floor. It was about 2 AM. I was breastfeeding her in the living room and a huge spider crawled on my arm. The whole new baby late at night thing made me stupid. So my reaction was to use the arm I was holding the baby in to get the spider off my other arm. My little girl went flying. It was horrible. She was fine, though, completely unharmed, just kind of annoyed. You can't just offer your baby to a spider to make it go away. From a son's pov, but my mom and the rest of my family have hidden from me that my older brother is only my half brother, same mom, my entire life so far, and they think I don't know, but I overheard my grandmother talking about it at a family reunion years ago. Same here, there's so much evidence that I can't not know, but they still won't tell me. If we had not lost the baby before him, he could not have been conceived. This applies to both children. That I know he is suicidal. I fear if I let him know that he'll go through with it or be too ashamed to speak with me again. Not a mom, but my cousin doesn't know that he is the product of non-consensual intercourse. My entire extended family knows, and as far as I know, nearly all of us cousins know aside from his own brother and sister. He was always treated special because of it, like if babying him will somehow make everything okay. He's turned out to be an entitled butthole because of it. This story was a roller coaster. Oh no, that's terrible, well at least his family made sure to love him. Oh no, he became an butthole. Years ago we had an awesome cat named Chosen One. We all loved this cat, but especially my oldest son who, at the time, was just beginning to drive. He was about 17 or so. One day my son was leaving the house to go somewhere, and when he left he reached down and gave Chosen a little love and out the door he went. Unbeknownst to him, the cat had followed him out the door, and for some reason the cat must have ran under the car. Nobody actually witnessed this event, so we're speculating on what exactly happened. So my son drives off, and a little while later I go outside only find Chosen laying on the driveway curled up in a ball dead. We think the kitty ran under the car or was in front of the tire or something, and when my son drove away he ran over Chosen and killed him. We were all pretty upset of course, and when my son came home we told him Chosen had been hit by a car in the road and died. We've never told him, and never will, that we're pretty sure he was the one that killed the cat. He'd blame himself and forever feel guilty about killing his favorite cat. My son wasn't planned, and I never ever wanted or planned to have kids. I fell pregnant accidentally. He will never ever be told this because my mum repeatedly told me I was an accident as a child, and it really fricked with me. I like to call my first son a wonderful surprise. He really was too. I walked in on my 5-year-old stepson with his pants down rubbing the cat against his dong saying, "Oh that feels good." I said that's not what the cat is for. He was embarrassed. The cat hasn't been the same since. I'm imagining a cat with 1,000-yard stare. That cat has seen some crap. My daughter is not biologically my husband's. She was conceived with donor sperm. Hubby is sterile. I want to tell her because I think it's fair just for medical reasons alone. Especially now considering she was born with a major heart defect. Hubby doesn't want to tell her. Might not ever. I don't think it would matter, but I would be devastated if it made her think less of my husband. She's only been with us a month, but he loves her so much, it would crush him. He has a third nipple. It's small, but it's a nipple. I have a favorite. I knew they do have favorites. He was conceived after we got lost trying to find a Halloween party at a friend's new place. We ended up just going home, but as I was already in the French maid costume, it made perfect sense to get drunk and forget the birth control. I don't imagine we will ever tell him he was conceived inside a French maid costume. Actually, who am I kidding? We will totally bust this story out for his future spouse. When my first wife was 4 months pregnant, she was diagnosed with stage 3/4 breast cancer. At 18 weeks, the doctor gave her a few choices. Her best chance of survival was to abort the baby and have aggressive chemo. We talked about it, and she decided to try and carry our son to term. They delivered our son healthy about 6 weeks early. She died about 5 months after he was born. I have since remarried and he is now almost 18. I don't plan on telling him that she saved him at her expense. It was a tough time and I don't blame him, and never have. That there's a chance he was conceived while me and his dad were both tripping on acid. Dad here. I know what he's doing with the butter, and that's why I buy the store brand for him to make toast at night and leave my good butter alone. And there's a reason I bought our own rechargeable batteries. Because it's nice to have any remote actually work when you try to use it. There's not a calculator in the world that goes through batteries like that. That I found a treasure hunt he had created as a surprise for his girlfriend on their anniversary. One of the clues was that she should go to the place where he first fricked her in the ass. I should add, they were both adults when they first met, so whatever they do in their private lives is their business only. But I could never unsee that note. I will never tell my son that his biological dad tried to kill us and himself when I was 6 weeks pregnant because he didn't want to be a dad. I know he injured at least 2 people and was injured himself at least once at political rallies that turned into a brawls. Some nights he would came home bleeding and with a black eye. He was a boxer, so I thought nothing of it, and I'm sure a few of those were boxing injuries. But I know he was hurt a few times in those political riots. Nearly a decade later, he moved out and of the country. Coincidentally, my husband and I finally decided it was time to pack up his old room and turn his bedroom into something else. We found a few things that linked him to local fascist groups. Just a few scraps he probably forgot to take with him. One of those things was an old newspaper clipping where I can clearly see him delivering a hard punch to the face of a political opponent. He's in a disguise, but I still recognize the clothes he was wearing. Then there was another picture from the same article where the guy he punched is laying on the ground and my son is getting ready to hit someone else. After we gathered everything incriminating, my husband and I decided to burn the evidence he left behind. Nothing could be gained by keeping those things. The articles were quite old, and my son moved to a new country that doesn't have his brand of fascism. My son followed a specific local type of fascism. That her first daycare auntie when she was aged 2-3 and going to her home every day was murdered by her husband a year later. Went to use the bathroom and I left our 8-month-old on the rug. I found her in the walk-in closet gnawing on my toy dong. Sort of a meta thing, but my mum didn't tell me until right before she died that she knew I was destined to never hold a job or live an ordinary life. Her psychiatric background had long before determined I was schizotypical and prone to a pattern of atypical depression. She never told me until the end because she knew how important it was to sort myself out, rather than just be given a diagnosis. She told me that she was never disappointed in me and that even if I had problems, there'd still be a future for me. She was proud that I'd taken on the issues that I had so openly and never given up. Years later, I haven't improved much, but her encouragement and confidence in me still lingers. Whenever I'm in a truly bad place, she's still there in my head giving me comfort. Love ya, Mom. That my husband and I had a $100 bet on our son's orientation. I bet $100 he was gay. Not a mom here. When I was around 5, my aunt walked into the room while I had the nozzle of a bicycle pump on the tip of my dong. I was trying to pump air inside me to see if I would swell up like a balloon. I didn't know this until my mother told me about it a few years ago when we were having a chat about funny things that happened in the past. Luckily we do not live close to a bridge because I seriously thought about jumping. How could she think that this would be funny to me? I was mortified. When I was 16 I found this stash of beer in our basement fridge. Miller High Life I think. I drank some and thought it was utterly disgusting. Not like acquired taste bad, but rather what the frick, how do people drink this? My stomach is literally on fire. Hid the bottles to throw away at a later date. Crossed beer off my list of things I liked. Forget about said beer bottles. One day I remember and go to look for them where I hid them. Instead, a note. Vorkrist. Those beers were at least 8 years old. We removed them from grandma's fridge when we were cleaning her house. I won't tell your dad. Hope your first beer was memorable, Mom. It's about my sister, but when she was a baby my mother tried to give her away because she didn't want her. My dad found out and got her back from the woman. She is 21 and still doesn't know that I wanted to give him to the fire station for a couple weeks. I didn't tell anyone until he was 2 weeks old because I thought it was something wrong with him and me. I didn't think I loved him and I was so ashamed. I ended up telling my husband in desperation one night and he snatched my son away, telling him that he'd find a mommy who actually loved him. Neither of us knew it was severe postpartum depression. I thought I was incapable of that love and my husband thought I was a monster. I am still battling the PPD and anxiety a year later, but I even now can't believe how much I love him. I love him so much it hurts. I'll never tell my son about that horrible night, but I will tell him that depression and anxiety are never ever shameful. You have been visited by the hamster of joy. Comment: I like chicken to live a happy and full of joy like the joy hamster life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.